So the more and more I think about this movie, Madam Web, the more I realize how bad this movie actually is. It's almost embarrassing the fact that we keep making these Sony movies that are based on a character that we will not decide to include. How Sony thinks that, oh, let's make these movies that the main core of these characters are based off this one character. Let's not even reference that at all. So, and they're putting out more. There's Craven coming in later this year, so what's that about? Anyway, let's get into it. So, this movie stars Dakota Johnson as Cassandra Webb in this film about a character whose mother was researching the spider in the Peruvian Amazon with this guy named Ezekiel Sims, which, if you look in the comics, this guy is nowhere near that character. I don't know what character this is, but it is not Ezekiel Sims, but they named this guy Ezekiel Sims. Anyway, they're in this Peruvian Amazon looking for the spider that's supposed to produce, and it's not even really plainly stated what they're doing. I think in the movie she stated that she wanted to find the spider that could potentially help cure cancer or illness or sickness, something like that. Something to the effect of medical advancement. You know, producing vaccines or cure, whatever, to cure sickness. The spider is supposed to have that. While Ezekiel Sims is there for his own personal reasons, which we got a taste, and I can barely even call it that, of his history or his past that got him so jaded or so upset that he felt the need to tag along with Cassandra Webb's mother. Oh, she's pregnant, by the way, so she hasn't been born yet. Tags along with her to find the spider for his own selfish reasons, but we don't really know why he's there. We get this one slight comment. He shoots everybody there at the camp, by the way. And right before he shoots her, he was like, do you think I ever got a handout when I was younger and my mother, we were treated with disrespect? Something to that effect. I can't even recall it. It was so bad. And pops her. And she says once, why are you doing this? Don't do this. And says it again, why are you doing this? Don't do this. I'm probably paraphrasing that. But she says it twice, the exact same thing. Not something in real life someone would say, I don't think. If you're in a situation, you're at gunpoint, I don't think you're just going to quote yourself twice. Maybe you're frantic, maybe you're panicked, I don't know. But there was no natural sense of that I got. So, she gets popped. He steals the spider, I think. Yeah, he takes the spider. And this Aranya clan, which they briefly referenced in some sort of dialogue where there are these mythical beings who possess spider-like abilities, which this spider is supposed to be super rare and very hard to find. And she finds it. Just, right, like, I mean, I'm sure she's been searching for whatever period of time and finds it. But this clan who's almost never been heard of, they're like myths and stories that maybe they exist. She gets shot, and then all of a sudden they come out and save her. They dump her in this water pool, and she's giving birth to Cassandra, has the spider bite her right as she's giving birth, and that's how Cassandra gets powers. Now that sequence alone, it's laughable. It really is. And I'll get into why later. Let me just keep going here with what else this movie has to offer. And it's crap. They have to offer crap. Sorry. Anyway, we fast forward. Cassandra Webb is grown up, and she's a medic. She's an ATM. She was EMT trying to save people's lives, and she has the most driest personality in this whole entire movie. I think everybody else. Well, no, Ezekiel Sims, that guy. Let's get into him later. But for the main character of the movie to have the driest sense of personality, I felt nothing. I felt like nothing was real. And honestly, in real life, Dakota Johnson, she doesn't even know how the movie did. Like, she's like, I hope it's good. I don't really know much. You're in the movie. How do you not know how it did? Aren't you curious? Like, all the hard work you put into the movie, which I'm sure, the actors and directors and writers, I'm sure they put in work. This is not just smashing them. It's more of just the direction that Sony decided to take with the movie and what we got in the theaters. That's kind of what I'm harping on, but I'm sure these people, I think the director did some scenes for Defenders, which it's a TV director doing a movie, whatever, but decent projects that have been in the works that she had done that did pretty well, minus this. And other writers and actors, and the actresses did what they could with what they had, honestly. I think the girls, the other Spider-Woman, they did okay for what they were given. They can only do so much. I mean, they only work within the bounds of the direction of the movie. Cassandra Webb, I keep wanting to call her Dakota Johnson. Cassandra Webb is an EMT. She's in New York. She's saving lives and whatever. She's super dry. She saves the life of this one kid's mother. Receives a gift from the kids, the mother of the kid of the mother that was dying picture, and she's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I think they're trying to go with the angle that she doesn't have a heart, she doesn't know how to care yet. But she's an EMT! You're literally saving lives as your job, and you don't care? I don't know why they made her so callous. I mean, in the comics, eventually she gets to the point where she's callous because she sees all, basically. So she has to have some sort of neutrality of a mindset when it comes to those kinds of things. But she's not there yet. She's still just a human being who doesn't know anything about her powers yet. So why did they make her so callous? It didn't work for me. I don't know about you. That personality for that character didn't work for me. And more on later in the movie still didn't work. It didn't work at all. None of it worked. And they're very vague. They're very touch and go with the Peter Parker and Spider-Man references. It's like, if you're too scared to reference the character that this character is based off of, and that all the other movies that you're doing fully encompass that character, but you're using those characters for your own movies to make your own independent projects, if we're not even going to say it, like, we all know, like, you have to know we know that this is a Spider-Man character that you decided to make a movie out of, for whatever reason. Just say it. It's Ben Parker. And even May didn't even mention her name once. I think there was a dialogue where Cassandra Webb is having a conversation with Ben in the break room, and he's like, oh, I've met someone. Oh, really? Tell me about her. And he's like, she's something special. So anyway, how's the weather? Like, we know it's May Parker. Just say it. Just say the name. And don't be vague. The vagueness works when it's alluding to something that's obscure, when it's not already obvious, right? So if you're trying to promote like some sort of mystery or a sense of like, wait, who's he talking about? He met someone. Like, we know it's May Parker, but in the sense of like, if we didn't know a character that was supposed to be in the movie that would be a nice little surprise. I don't know how they would do that with this movie, but other movies it works, that whole method. This one it didn't, because we already know these characters. We didn't know Ben Parker, we know May Parker, we know Jonah Jameson, which, by the way, Maddie Franklin is the niece of, I think? Yeah, the niece of. Which is a very quick take of like, I'm going to call my uncle. And at that point it's like, oh, that's J. Jonah Jameson. I think there's some sort of reference that makes that more clear. Look, guys, I'm going to be honest. It's this alone is hard to do. Like, as far as going through the movie, because the movie was so disjointed, it was edited so many times, there were so many countless things taken out of the movie that just didn't make the movie succinct enough for me to, like, give a full-based review on. It's that difficult because the movie was that bad. Ezekiel Sims. Let's talk about this fracker. So, this poor guy, because I feel like, I'm sure the guy may be a good actor. I don't know much about him. I think this is, like, the only project that I or most people have seen him in. So, only thing that we've seen him in is this, from what I know. And I don't know why they did this, and ADR stands for something, but basically, when they do audio in the booth and then put it into the movie and make it sync up later, post-production, they decided to do that with almost every single line this guy had. Like, every single line, either you saw him talking and his lips did not match the words that were coming out or that you were hearing, or every time there was a scene with him talking, most of the scenes, he's either walking away from the camera with his back to the camera, so he's talking, you hear him talking, and then the camera pans weird, or it's dark and you can't really see him, and he moves quick, and the scenes transition very quickly. You never get a clear sense that this guy is talking, and the words he's actually saying is actually coming out of his mouth. I don't think, not once, maybe towards the end, towards the very last scene, he's talking to Cassandra Webb, and like, I don't even remember what he was talking. He was yelling at her about something. I don't think that matched up well. But I don't know why they did it to this poor guy. I'm sure this guy, like, acted maybe not his heart out, but he did his job. He acted for a movie he was cast in. Ezekiel Sims is actually more of an ally. Which, honestly, I would have preferred to see a movie about this. Because this storyline in the comics where Ezekiel Sims is introduced to Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man at this point, and this movie he's not even born yet, so why bring in this character who could have really made a good movie or a good storyline later down the road? Why bring him out now and then completely ruin him? People are going to hear the name Ezekiel Sims and think about this guy. Think about this trash movie. Instead of the cool character he actually turns out to be in the comics. In the comics, he's more of a mentor type of character to Peter Parker. Peter Parker's going through some stuff. I think he broke up with Mary Jane. He's living on his own. She met someone else. He's kind of down on his luck. And comes across this guy. I think this guy just starts jumping across building tops, and Peter's like, "Whoa, what's this about?" And the guy calls him out. He's like, "I know you're Spider-Man, and let's have a little chase or whatever." It's been a while since I've actually read this comic, but they're chasing each other. So clearly, Peter sees like, "Oh, this guy has powers," and he moves kind of like I do. There's a lot of similarities here. What's that about? Eventually, they meet up. They talk things out. He kind of explains what's going on about how there's an impending doom coming, about how there's this vampiric essence. Morlun, this guy who basically feeds off of the spider totem or spider essence, or people from other dimensions who carry spider-like powers. Basically tries to prepare him for that. That would have been an awesome movie to prepare for. About this threat that is just looming over Peter Parker, looming over anyone who contains spider abilities. And you need to get ready for it. And he builds this whole facility for Peter to hide in, but Peter decides not to. He's going to face this threat head on. It's a really cool storyline. I love it. It's great. I've read it more than once. It's kind of funny I can't recall all the details. But I just say all of that. That Ezekiel Sims, I would have liked to see that character. This character is barely a character. He barely had any lines. His motivation for what he was doing and why wasn't strong enough to hold this whole movie. Wasn't strong enough to hold his character. Basically, okay, first of all, rewind. He takes a spider. Years later, he gets somehow rich, or maybe he was already rich. Maybe he's just a gun for hire. I don't know. That's not explained. And even the comedy made about I was never taken care of when I was young, and whatever. Why should I give a hand up to you? That's not explained. So that's all we have to go off of as far as his personality is concerned and his character. So fast forward, he's rich. He finds this NSA agent who knows about like security and surveillance, and takes her to bed. They sleep together, and steals her badge to get connections into the actual NSA or CIA, and talks to his assistant, who she gets like 2 scenes, so we barely know anything about her. And again, every line this guy had, it was just so surface level. There was no depth. There was no mystery as to what's going on with this character. It was just like, no, these girls are having these visions, and they're gonna kill me one day, and I gotta kill them first before they get to me. Which, we get a small, like 30 to 40 second scene of when the Spider-Women are grown up and they're wearing their full costumes. And this is, if I think about it, this is honestly the only action of a superhero movie that takes place. When you go to see a superhero movie, what is like the one thing you expect? Action. Action sequences. Basically, the villain gets hit with a truck like twice, and then he gets smashed by a sign that falls into the water. That's like the only action we see. And then there's maybe like the one where he hurts a bunch of cops. What are we doing? Like, why was this movie made? Anyway, so we get the small 30-second scene of the Spider-Woman just whooping ass on this guy, honestly. And then he gets killed. Honestly, and again, they're superheroes, right? What's like the golden rule for superheroes? What's the Batman rule for I don't kill. We don't kill. We put in prison so they can escape later, and the cycle continues. But we don't kill. We're not murderers. But they killed this guy. Don't know why. Don't know what threat that was coming up. Maybe they had to. We don't know. There's nothing there to support why they had to do that and why he was targeted in the first place. Nothing. Because in the comics, he's not a villain. So it's like we don't go into this movie already knowing that, oh man, Ezekiel Sims, they got to get rid of that guy. He's bad. He's not. Not in the comics. In this movie, yeah. For whatever reason, we're never told why he's bad, other than he shot Cassandra Webb's mother. But the girls don't know. So there's a lot of holes with this movie. And then they all meet up on the train, and then Ezekiel Sims is walking barefoot down the train in her visions, trying to kill them. Who, the only thing he does, he grabs a lot of people by the throat, if I look back at this. Yeah, he grabs a lot of, mainly women. He's choking a lot of women out. Like, every time he beat someone up, he beat the cops up, like fisticuffs, beat them up, if I can even call it that. Then the woman cop, the only woman cop there, grabs by the throat, cracks her neck, and then throws her on the ground. And in the train, he's grabbing, in Cassandra's visions, grabbing Maddie, grabbing Jessica, and I think Aranya by the throat, slams them up, throws them across the train. Like, can't be more creative than that. And people who don't know the character, I feel for you. If you don't know really who Madam Web is, you're probably wondering, what the actual hell is going on? I don't know. Things are moving way too fast. There's a lot of characters on the screen that we don't know anything about, other than they're somehow connected to each other because of the spider that from the Peruvian Amazon. That's about it. That's pretty much it. That's all we have to go off of. If we didn't already read the comics and have some sense of the character. And even me, who does know the character, barely knows anything about, as far as this movie's concerned, I don't know what the heck's going on in this movie. Anyway, she meets the Spider-Woman, and she's able to predict that Ezekiel is trying to kill them, gets them off the train, they're like, wait, why are you doing? We're being kidnapped, and tries to hail the cops, and they get killed, and they run off, and now it looks like she just kidnapped them. And now she dumps them off in the forest to hide out. Hold on, I need 3 hours. Dumps them off for 3 hours in the forest. Which apparently they're teenagers, so they're like, I'm bored, let's go to, are you hungry? I'm hungry. Let's go to this diner, let's chill there. When we were specifically told to wait here because a freaking raging murderer is trying to kill us, don't think I would take a chance at going to a diner because I'm hungry. I was catching some Z's. I was falling asleep during this movie, and normally during a movie, especially Marvel or DC or any superhero movie, I'll be awake for. I'm somewhat engaged enough to stay awake and watch this film so I can talk about it later or whatever. This one actually had me asleep. I didn't know what was going on. It was boring because, again, there's not a whole lot of action. It's just things happening that don't really make sense, but they're happening regardless. And I'm falling asleep, so I missed a few bits of places in the movie, but it didn't really make a difference. I never was like, oh, why is this happening? What's going on? I was never like that. Never. I was just, oh, they're here now. I guess that makes sense under the basis of this movie. Okay. Good news. There are some good qualities, very few, but good qualities. In that regard, that's in regards to the train scene, which I thought the double takes of when the visions were happening and when things, when she's seeing something before it happens. I thought that was done okay. That was done well. That was okay. But the final fight scene, they're in this firework warehouse that they just set a whole bunch of fireworks off, and he's just leaping across places trying to get to them, and she's able to predict where fireworks or debris is falling and to kind of make that work to her favor, and that's how she fights him. And she's also able to astral project herself and save the girls who are dangling off whatever, and what she can't do in the comic. She can astral project, sure, but she can't physically touch someone. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. But then he just gets knocked off. He gets crushed by a sign. She falls into the water. She gets blinded by one of the fireworks. I don't know how she got paralyzed. She got blinded by the fireworks. So she ends up in the hospital. She's paralyzed now, so it's more accurate to the comics. Fine, I can respect that a little bit. But at the end of the day, her lines were just so dry. Like the very last dialogue she had at the movie was a flash forward when they're finally in their superhero attire and she's floating there behind them. The end. Like, this is depressing, man. Like, this is what we've come to? Sony, you know how to make a Spider-Man, let alone an action film, superhero action film. Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, bangers. Those did amazingly well. Even Venom. There were kind of mixed feelings about Venom, but Venom did very well in the box office. And we have a lot of good fans, or a lot of really intense fans for Venom. Tom Hardy acted his butt off. He pulled off the character very well. Is a comic book accurate? Not really, because you're missing Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not in it. He's not in it at all. But they still made a decent movie with what they had, with what they were trying to do. Venom is a very popular character. Let There Be Carnage didn't do as well as the first, but it did well for what it was. People love Venom. So you know how to make a movie. You know how to make a movie that's missing a vital character, so it's like, why make the movie in the first place? But you can make a good movie and make it do well. With Morbius, with Madam Web, and soon to be Craven, which I'm already crying about because I'm already going into that expecting it to be bad. Because again, you're taking out the heart of these characters, which is Spider-Man. But because of your disagreement with Marvel, something to that effect, you can't say his name or can't use him in certain projects. But the movies suffer, and the fans suffer because they're spending their hard-earned dollars trying to watch these movies, hoping to have some sense of entertainment, some sense of escape from the everyday life, but to come to this crap fest and watch a movie for 2 hours and then go home more depressed than when they came in. So it doesn't make sense to me. And all these poor writers that put in their hours, I don't know how long it took to make this movie, but all the hard work that did actually go into it, because I don't want to throw shade at them, because they actually worked hard for this. And during the writer strike and all that, I'm sure there were a lot of changes that had to be done that we don't know about. But work was done regardless. I want to give credit to them. But at the end of the day, this is what you put out? It's not finished. You left so many holes in it for us to just ponder about it. And yeah, it's probably blowing up on the internet because people are just raging about it, about how bad this was. But also, at the same time, you're dissing the fans. You don't really care about the fans. I feel. I could be wrong. But you don't care about the fans. People that actually work on these films, they don't care either. At the end of the day, I don't think they care. Dakota Johnson, there it is. She doesn't know how the movie did. She wasn't paying. She was far removed from the movie, from what it seemed on the outside looking in. That alone should tell you something about the direction that Sony's taking with these characters. Like, make good movies. Don't include Spider-Man. Don't include Spider-Man characters if this is how you're gonna act. What did we watch? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Could I call this a movie? Absolutely not. It's just something that we paid money for and we sat in front of while it played. Oh, God. I needed to get that off my chest. This movie just, it hurt. Because as a Spider-Man fan, this hurt. When the people behind these movies that are being made don't care enough about the fans to make a good or at least a decent movie because they just want to make a buck or a few bucks. When I say bucks, I mean like a few $1 billion maybe, hopefully. It's like, why did you get into the business in the first place? To fill your own pockets? Or do you have better projects down the road that are just like, hey, hold on, have this hold you until we put out this banger that like Venom 3 is, I think, the end of this year. Hopefully that's good. I mean, I don't know anything about that really, but Sony, why are you doing this? Why are you giving us these zombified movies you've stolen the heart out of Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and try to make movies around whatever direction you felt was good enough to be called a movie? I don't know. Anyway, my final thoughts on Madam Web. I give that 1 out of 5 stars, honestly, if I could even give it that. Couldn't even keep track of the movie. There was no action. The storyline was all jaded. There were scenes that were removed post-production. Don't know why, not really. And I could barely call this a movie. Sony, you can do better. Marvel deserves better, so did the fans. Thank you. That's all I got. Post in the comments below if you have any reviews about this movie. Did you see it? What were your thoughts? Kind of curious to see how much you all cared enough to actually go in and watch this film. But anyway, that's my time. Spidey Trainer out. Stay tuned for next time.